Hello, I'm Cassidy Clark, and welcome to my museum exhibition presentation. This exhibition will start off with the intro wall text stating this exhibition shows various artists of different East Asian ethnicities that incorporate natural materials within their work. The work of each individual artist shows a relationship between the object, material, space, and the human in both physical form and spiritual. The contemporary East Asian artists being featured in this exhibition are Liu Fan, Isamu Noguchi, Chung Chang-sup, and Shi Hui. All artists initially reject the influence of Western art ideals and instead implement traditional Eastern ideologies and principles. Traditional Eastern ideologies are those that focus on customs, rituals, point of view towards life, purpose in the world, perception on afterlife, a key sense of enlightenment, and an existing harmony with nature. Cultural beliefs and discussion of environmental ethics, such as Zen Buddhism, can be categorized as non-anthropocentric, since there is a dominating attitude towards a harmonious coexistence between man and nature. These concepts allude to a new perspective on nature that is not familiar within a majority of exploitive Western anthropocentric ideals. The valued nature and raw material that these artists use as an expressive form of art indicates a harmonious connection between object, nature, and man. Here we have all four artists that will be in this exhibition. Liu Fan, a Korean minimalist painter, sculptor, writer, and philosopher, was an original founder of Mono-ha Object School Group. Mono-ha was a pioneering art movement that emerged from Tokyo in the late 1960s. The principles reject Western notions of representation and instead focus on emphasizing materials and the relationship between space and matter. Isamu Noguchi creates works that reflects his ideas and feelings towards historical and traditional events. The historical events on the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor, as well as traditional events like Awa Odori, a Japanese dance festival, influenced Noguchi to explore the realm of new materials, form, and methods. Chung Chang-sup was a prominent member of the Korean art movement Tangsakwa, which was widely acknowledged during the 20th century. This style is considered abstract and unique due to the use of hanji, which is mulberry paper. Chung often reflects on his works of random unique processes as being unpainted paintings, since the ultimate goal is to depict a world without depiction. Shi Hui, one of the first Chinese artists to engage in contemporary fiber art, prefers fibers because they bear life of nature, both the life of plants and the life of man using the material. Shi Hui's work visually embodies contemporary characteristics as well as historical materials such as Huan paper and processes like Chinese weaving. Although these artists come from different historic backgrounds and are a part of distinct art movements, their work resonates the importance of raw materials from a cultural and national standpoint. Here we have a sculpture created by Li Yufan and it is titled Relatum, the Cane of Titan. The three-dimensional sculpture is incredibly minimalistic and abstract with just a steel pole slightly resting on a stone rock. All elements of this piece create a visual juxtaposition between the steel pole and the natural stone rock. These materials emphasize the tension that has been created on this picture plane. The relationship between brushstroke and canvas is being mimicked with the relationship between stone and iron. Li Yufan often uses raw, natural, and industrial materials to examine themes of cultural production and national identity, to focus in on the relationship between viewer, artwork, and the space the work inhabits, a minimalistic perspective. Another work by Liu Fan is an untitled sculptural piece made from terracotta. With this terracotta sculpture, Li focuses on highlighting the terracotta material and exposes the relationship of the object to the environment it is in. The work has no platform to rest on, emphasizing the relationship of flatness between the work and the floor and eliminating the idea of institutionalizing works. This idea comes from the conceptual movement of imagining alternative systems of curation due to problems with institutions. By disrupting the three-dimensional surface in a variety of ways, it creates an interplay between perception and space. This minimalistic and abstract form is titled Awa Adori, made by Japanese sculptor Isamu Noguchi. Noguchi uses a natural pink granite, Minari granite, that can be found in the hills near Okayama and references the dance festival Awa Odori that takes place in the city of Tokushima, Japan. Noguchi explains the dance goes on for 3 nights during the month of August in the streets of Tokushima. Women with brimmed straw hats fill the streets dancing in a formal formation. The sculpture's form relates to the women of the event in an abstract way and highlights the importance of raw material. Its form is quite tall and takes on a jagged appearance with block shapes protruding from the center in different directions, while the whole thing rests on a circular base. Another piece by Noguchi is titled Fence with Branches. Following the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor and the backlash against Japanese Americans in the United States, Noguchi became a political activist for Japanese Americans. Noguchi joined many groups that dedicated raising awareness to the patriotism of Japanese Americans. He even voluntarily entered the incarceration camp located in Arizona for 6 months. After his release, he moved to New York to set up a studio to create more stone sculptures and explore the realm of new materials and methods. Noguchi's ideas and feelings reflect in his works from this period. The sculpture is carefully balancing on 3 angled wood posts that resemble a fence with 3 natural branches protruding from one end. This artwork, titled Return 1G, is by Korean painter Chung Chang-sup, who was a prominent member of the Korean artistic movement Tang Sekwa. Chung used the semi-transparent medium to explore the dualism of light and dark. The canvas is divided in halves and is layered with wet hanji, made from the inner bark of paper mulberry, and then black ink is used to tint the areas desired. The black ink then progresses through the hanji that is layered on the canvas. For this work, there is a focus on the process of rapid change and randomness. The edges were tinted with black ink as well as a horizontal strip across the divided section in the middle of the canvas. The ink then seeped into the other areas of the canvas, creating wispy, feather-like shapes. This work, titled Meditation, was inspired by Zen Buddhism and strived for a state of self-disappearance, amplifying the idea of unification. Chung Chang-sup is known for his technique of using hanji, which is made from the inner bark of paper mulberry, a plant native to Asia. For this work, he introduced new materials for pigments and tried new processes. For his later work in the series, he incorporated tobacco leaves and charcoal to retrieve a brown and black color, as well as geometry, which symbolizes the harmony found in nature. A wooden stick or thread was used to make square-like incisions. The canvas was shaped, molded, flattened to form whatever he desired. This piece is strictly black, so charcoal must have been the pigmented material that is most present. Incisions were made on the canvas, which created a flattened, single, large square in the middle of this monochrome composition. This sculptural piece by Chinese contemporary fiber artist Shi Hui is titled Pillars. Shi Hui's work is often characterized by her use of cotton, hemp, rice paper, pulp, silk, and other fiber materials. This work Pillars consists of 3 separate forms that are unified because of their appearance and the materials used. Each form has a tall and skinny wooden center with woven, bulbous forms placed coming off the center. The separate forms have differing patterns of the woven hemp and paper. The unification of this piece, all being the same cream-white color, allows the contrast between the various sizes and shapes of the needle-like woven forms coming off each piece to be subtle. Lastly, we have this installation piece titled Float that is made from wire mesh and Xi'an paper pulp. This work was created later in Shi Hui's life, where she began to think more about the materials she had been using that were widely used by European artists. Ultimately, she decided to shift towards using a different material, Xi'an paper, which is traditionally Chinese rice paper used for calligraphy. There are separate horizontal forms suspended from the ceiling in a layered composition. Each individual form is angled in a different direction and stacked, allowing for some separation between one another. The forms itself are constructed by forming the rectangular shape in wire and wrapping it in a wire mesh, then coating them with the pulp of the Xi'an paper. The individual forms have their own lighting system, which illuminates and accentuates the texture of the dried pulp paper. There is a sense of unity amongst these brightly lit organic forms. Lastly, we have this beautifully constructed exhibition space, which will have 2 rooms, one slightly dimmed room dedicated to Shi Hui's float, and the other room will be brightly lit with all sculptural pieces and wall pieces. Walls and ceilings will be white with an unfinished concrete floor. This will allow the pieces to stand out and allow the audience to focus on the naturalistic elements and unique forms. In conclusion, all artists use natural materials to express Eastern ideologies, principles, movements, as well as historic events and traditions. Thank you for listening.